Hello everyone, this is Jasmine, aka Gladiatorinsweats, and I am here with a new video for this next Wavespell that we've been in the middle of, but really talking about really all of the different shifts and all of the different things that I feel we're all enwrapped in and engulfed in around this time, and not necessarily in a bad way, but I definitely feel, especially as we're coming into Sagittarius season, so we're just really taking on brand new journeys. I feel all of us in so many different ways, being initiated into new realms where things that never would seem possible, or in ways that maybe even you don't even think are possible, or you don't even want to even ponder on or even want to wonder about. For some people, where it can be maybe a little bit too mutable, a little bit too off the cuff and too chaotic, and just wanting to create something different, something just bring some spice back to the party. That's what I think of when I think of Sagittarius. I think of like if there's like that kind of party where like everyone's just kind of like not doing anything. I'm thinking of that person that would just be like, why is everyone just standing here being wallflowers? And they're just like, we gotta do something to shake up the complacency. And that's kind of how I feel. Not necessarily that it's a complacency in that, oh, we're being lazy, and maybe you can see it a little bit to that effect, maybe in a societal way, but I also just see it more of an effect that also we're also coming out of all of these retrograde periods. We have Neptune also going direct, I believe, in a couple days. So I just feel like there's all of this forward momentum for us to really shake things up. And it's not necessarily just for us to shake things up, but it's really, I feel, also of our environment shaking things up also, where it's really getting us out of our groove, getting us more comfortable in this different element, getting us more comfortable about coming into this portal, this gateway, which is also what this blue hand is representative of. Is also speaking of portals, of coming into a new gateway, into, like I said, new realms and new dimensions of ourselves, as well as of our environment. So yeah, just starting, I guess, also with some words or some key phrases to kind of understand also just what the blue hand is representative of. It's also representative of, for me, I look at it really as this Jupiterian sort of energy, while also kind of very Capricorn, because it's about completion, accomplishment. It's also about healing, though, and in reaching a certain level of accomplishment, but it's really about when you've reached a certain point, or after a certain level of the journey, there's a coming back to self, there is a coming back to knowing, there's this ebb and flow where we're coming into this new stage of this life, and really, I guess, completing the level, which is also a little bit of what this is representative of in reading this next phrase of, it's also the last archetype within the cycle of the development of our primal nature. So you can also just see this as also, like, for many of us, I even feel we're not even feeling necessarily human anymore. It's really having to break away from the it's not even just about being human, but it's about this the old way of thinking, the whole old way of thinking of like, we're little pawns in this game, and we have no way of controlling it, or we have no way of knowing what's going on. We have no way of being aware of anything outside of just this 3D dimension. We're really having to shed those parts go, and even with those words, it can sound like, oh, this is very like magical, and it is, but I always like to do, I like to bring the magic to the mundane, and so I feel we can see how this is happening within our own present lives, where for many of us, which I think many of us have already been feeling, but for it's definitely on where the synchronicities are just on point for a lot of us, where we're feeling telepathy with people a lot stronger. For those of us that have been feeling that sort of energy, those of us that have really any sort of psychic gifts starting to open up, they're just really opening up even further and further. And I know, especially for those with any of that Sagittarian energy, I feel it's definitely of us coming into this, again, this sense of really seeing, not necessarily seeing, but there's really of us recognizing that it's not necessarily what we're seeing, I guess. It's really the flip side of it, of us recognizing there's a whole nother level, there's a whole nother layers, within what's going on here. And so much of what we've, or at least for me, for maybe what we maybe felt going on, I think we're maybe getting some more sort of evidence. We're really getting that sort of level where a lot of those sort of gifts are opening up, and it really is coming through us really just allowing ourselves to be initiated through this and allowing it to just be received, honestly. But really, it's this rite of passage. It's really about us coming into this full circle of all of these cycles that we are completing within this time, all of these different journeys that we, signed up for, and we're actually coming full circle to where it's not just about, oh, this was even just like 7 or 8 years. This is a lot of different, if you believe in lifetimes, if you believe in the concept of the time being more of like a spiral, of the time kind of being compounded onto each other in sort of a coil, kind of the way I'm thinking of it. It's just like it feels like it's all just kind of coming together. Everything's folding together, coming into one piece, to where all of the pieces are coming together, and now it's just a matter of being able to pull in the information from those pieces. And I just feel like the bigger picture, which is even what for me Sagittarius is about. When you think of that Gemini Sagittarian axis of the details of being able to see the different perspectives, it's really like a prism, like a light prism, where you can have a light go through like a prism, and you get all the different color spectrums. Like that Gemini is the colors, the differences, and then Sagittarius for me, or really I guess in this analogy, is bringing you this bigger picture, allowing you to see that higher minded viewpoint, as I had been talking about. So yeah, just getting into a little bit of the Western astrology now. I don't believe I spoke about Mars entering Pisces, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and how that works into obviously how it's working into this, because it's taking place within this now, but also with Mars entering this energy of Pisces, of us really going into the battle, of us taking on the spiritual warrior sort of essence. And it's not so much in a sense of well, maybe not for all of us, of really having to like fight demons, but it essentially is. It's of us moving out of our fears of our abandonment, our fears of our own self-worth and our value, and of us releasing this through the healing of our overactive desire to like go, or materialize something, or our desire for outward attention and validation, and really getting to the root of the matter of healing our inner security of ourselves, and really going deeper into our projections and deeper within the things that we are resistant to. So, or maybe I did talk a little bit about this. So I'll just go a little bit more, I guess, into the blue hand. And also after this, I will talk a little bit about some of the collective messages that I got a couple weeks ago, and I just haven't gotten around to being able to record the messages. So I'll cover that as well. So yeah, so and how we're taking on this energy of releasing our fears, it's not easy. Obviously, I mean, that's obviously like the understatement of the year, or not even just of the year, but it's really of these times that we're coming into. Like, being able to stand up and continue within the battle, because it's about really maintaining the stamina. Like, it's easy, or it's easy enough, or seemingly easy enough to pump ourselves up one good time, and go into it, or feel a big great amount of confidence about winning a battle and going into it. But we're also having to learn about going through things and transcending a lot of our fears, even when it feels like we may not be able to, or not necessarily when it may feel like that, but it's when our own fears convince us, our own inner insecurities convince us that it may not be worth it, or that we aren't worth it, that we are not worthy of this journey, or worthy of the rewards that come from us transcending the struggle and the pain, or really it's just the discomfort of us moving out of what we were used to. So, because ultimately, if you were used to it, it wouldn't be a struggle. So yeah, and just reading some of my key points that I wrote down about some of the shadow work that we're dealing with, because I feel like it's easy enough to really get the shadow points of us reaching this victory, of us reaching this healing, and it's not just like the soothing or not like a short time. That's what I was thinking, like a short term sort of healing. But this is, again, these are really deep, really much more generational, karmic sort of patterns that we're healing at the time. So and really talking about some of these resistances, it's really, one of these things is really our resistance to acknowledging what is really our power, what is actually beautiful about us. And this is often for me, because this is Neptunian, or it's within also that trickster sort of energy of us really having to see where the mirrors, because I always think of like a mirror house. We have to see where the mirrors are warping things, where are sort of built in the things that we came in with, usually within our DNA, those sort of imprints that we're working through, that really cause us to see things in a certain way, that bring us to a focus of a certain perspective. And so what we're really moving out of this discomfort, or really, I guess, just being more comfortable with, is becoming aware of how these are initiatory portals, of how these are, gateways that are hidden in these, moments of emotional crisis, or what seem like apparent obstacles to us. And it is through us expanding our awareness in this way that we open our door to our allies, to our guides, to the people that we're meant to connect with, or to the people that we're just meant to have some sort of interaction with in some sort of way. And in this way, this is how we can start to see how our lives are much more magical. It doesn't have to necessarily be, some seemingly outward, or out of your world, or out of this world experience, for us to experience magic. Not to say that we won't be experiencing that, and I mean, not to say that we will, but I'm just trying to get the point across that we're really having to shift our perspective of what we are expecting also, because this isn't really mostly about us blaming ourselves. This is about us also just being much more aware of our environment, and seeing also how our environment, like I said, all of the mirrors, how things warp our sense of reality, whether it's our own inner imprints that we're working through, or the outer experience, but ultimately they're both one and the same, right? So when we even get to that point, I guess you can start to see where those mirrors start to fade away, or they start to dissipate. But another thing that we can struggle with in really going through this time of really accepting who we are and accepting the gifts that we are opening ourselves to becoming aware of, we may have difficulties in, like I said, in completing the goals that we want to do. And I feel like this can be due to our feelings of inadequacy, or, because we feel dissatisfied with what seems to be, the expected outcome, because, we have this focus on, like, it's very just this Virgo type of desire of just wanting, not necessarily just perfection, but it's also that Libran energy of us wanting beauty, but really wanting such a focused beauty. There's just this hyper awareness or hyper focus on our old reference points. That's really where I guess I really can come from it. It's coming from our old imprints. It's coming from the past, the way that we have always been doing things. We don't have any reference for what this future, sense of us, or this future world, or, just this new time that we're moving into. We don't have any reference points. So it's like, we don't have anything to expect, but at the same time, we're trying our best to fill in the blanks, because that's what the mind does. That's what, Mercury desires to do, to find some sort of details and to try and communicate it. It's always just trying to be able to translate something to be more, able to be received. So in us working through this, we're having to, again, it's all about us finding this balance. But I think for a lot of us, it's about us, in finding this balance, we're having to release the need of having all the details, or having the details that we think that we need, or of us getting the certain expectations or the outcomes that we think that it's supposed to come out. Or, we just think that we know the directions to the recipe, when it's like, no, there could be a whole new recipe, like a recipe just so exquisite, but like you have no reference point. You've never tasted these ingredients. So you've got to be able to let yourself just kind of go with the flow with this one, and able to access that creative genius. Come in with the sense of, it not necessarily just an innocence, but of just really allowing yourself to not know, and be willing to just receive what's coming in, and not necessarily be quick to judge it, but just allow something to come in. Or not something, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say, of really allowing, the messages or the info or whatever sort of steps are taking place, or whatever is going on in this present now, even, instead of trying to like so much be like, no, this can't be how it is, really having to accept, this now. Not in a sense of like, I'm going to stay here, but of being like, this is what I'm working with. These are my ingredients. I'm not comfortable with these ingredients, but I'm going to figure something out. So, yeah. And just allowing yourself to even just be excited about the journey, and just being satisfied with the little steps. That's what I think is the beauty of being able to look at the past is, if we're going to look at the past, being able to look at it with a certain sense of appreciation for what has taken place. And it's really actually when you have met that sort of point where you're able to look at these old sort of it's not even to be like, oh, you don't feel like those things aren't trials anymore, because they can definitely still be trials and feel like trials, but it's like we're able to look at them with a new sense of appreciation, maybe not necessarily even for the trial, but it could be at the very least for ourselves, for having been able to move through that, for having been able to, walk through the fire and maybe not get burned. Or it's not even necessarily about not getting burned, but maybe being able to take on that fire and not necessarily be hurt, but you're able to transform and transmute and become fire. So yeah, and another thing about just completing things, there's there's just an energy in honoring and completing our agreements that we do create. And it's in really, the way I can even try and consider it is like, you can think of it as like, if you can only, it's not even about having only a certain amount of doors closed or open, but I guess the way I'm seeing it in my mind is just like imagining having like a house, and you really wouldn't have like all the windows and doors open. You would kind of have like some, you may have some open if you're going to have like a little bit of air. You wouldn't have it just completely like all air drifty or like just letting every single thing in. You would have maybe some locks on, the door maybe, and you might have let the window open, like, okay, I feel okay to have that door open. But I guess ultimately what I'm trying to get at with this sort of house picture is, there is this energetic flow where, as we do complete agreements, or as you can just think of it, as I always just try to relate things to even games, like when you complete levels, as you complete levels, you do get accumulated, I guess energy points, whatever, to be able to move forward. And there's usually caps, right, to be able to get to the next level. And so you could have like a bunch of open things that you haven't completed, and it's not necessarily to be like, oh, it's completing just for completion's sake, but there's usually a reason for completing things. There's usually something that has to be worked through, or some reason for us to have to go through something. And I feel like even sometimes, not even just recognizing that, but sometimes just really believing that, really just holding that very much true to yourself, that not necessarily just that everything happens for a reason, so cliche, but like really about right now, especially in this time now. We're here very much now for a reason. The things that we're going through now are very much for a reason. So it's like, if we can really just shake as much off of the victimhood, and really taking on, the hero, really thinking of ourselves as the hero and the hero's journey, then we can really start to embrace, this journey a little bit more comfortably, and a little bit more joyfully. So, yeah, just a few more things that I guess I want to mention before just talking about a few more tips and closing it off before I get into the messages for the elements. Some things that to remember is just knowing that discipline is needed, to master a tool, to master any sort of, practice, modality, anything in an instrument, whatever it is. Meditation, for example, commitment and focused intent, but also an openness is all necessary in order for us to, build up new skills, for us to, open and expand a new sense, a new part of us, or again, a new ability. So it's not about blaming ourselves or beating ourselves up about procrastination, but I think what truly honestly helps is really looking at why. Just looking at why. Every time, I think, even just any time, myself, another person, like, we may beat ourselves up, and it's just like really thinking about like why. Why is it? Really questioning, like, why is it that I feel this way? Is it is it me, I truly feel this way? Is it, or is it because, so and so or such and such feels this way, or because, I read this online, or like, these are just all, examples, but, all for me to just prove this point of us really recognizing that a lot of times our perfection is, our desire for perfection creates this procrastination, or our desire, or us thinking we can wait for the perfect time, really leads us into this, just suffering, further suffering that we don't really have to go through. The further we allow ourselves to just be, the further we allow ourselves to be enough. So, yeah, recognize that it's not even the tool that has the power. It's not about, a certain, modality, or a certain technique, or like, a certain, just anything, or, needing to find, oh, well, I need to find, the perfect, modality, or or even just within astrology, being like, oh, maybe I need to just find like the one that would tell me everything, or the one that's supposedly right. Like, releasing even just this notion that the tool, holds so much of that weight. It's really the tool is just a vehicle. The tool is just the car with which you move through, so that you're able to connect in a practical, tangible manner with an intangible essence, like source. So tools like tarot and astrology, all of these things, they definitely are useful, and they provide, focus, intent with which we're able to pull through messages. But sometimes we can, hold on so much to the tool, or really kind of squeeze and hold on to them, like, to where like we feel like we're losing it, or maybe we feel as if, like, there's just so many things that can happen, so many fears, or so many insecurities that can come up when we begin entering and initiating within these realms, because again, we don't have any sort of reference points, or at least many of us don't. And so as we start to step through, just allowing ourselves to move through, allowing ourselves to use the tools, but not feel like we have to rely on the tools, or feel like we have to focus even on one particular tool. If we do feel like something, or we're feeling something opening up for us, like, this could just be taken however way you may be feeling this resonating within your own experience. But just how I just said a while back within the video, it's taking on this water essence, taking on those energies of being fluid, of allowing ourselves to be even just more innovative, just being creative with what we have. Because again, like I said a while ago, and as I feel many of us are continuing to feel and say, is that it is all within us already. It is already, even not even just within, it is already here. And oftentimes all of our gifts, or even tools, can be things we're already working with and things we're doing. It's, again, expanding our awareness in all of the ways, and seeing the ways in which the ways we're doing things are already creating magic. So yeah, just relax, allowing ourselves to just have fun, enjoy, and just allowing ourselves to play the part in the dream, while also recognizing that it is still a dream, and knowing that as a dream, and most dreams are, dreams don't just, or I guess, especially if you're following my channel, you don't believe that dreams are just coincidental memories, or things that happen, when you're asleep. So in recognizing that, we can see that things are intentional. It's just we don't recognize that intent just yet. And so have fun and recognizing, have fun and exploring. So just a few just small, I guess, practical tips. Dance, get in touch with beauty in whatever way. But you can get very much physical with it, with dance, with just celebration, with enjoying, with just finding ritual within the journey, finding the jewels, the experiences that are something to hold on to, those small moments, those aha gems that we start to find when we not even just when we start to go searching, but even when we're just sitting, we're allowing it to just come to us sometimes too. And while we are going into these expanded senses and dimensions of ourselves, still acknowledging our humanness to a sense, it's not about us neglecting, or saying we are not the body anymore. We're not wanting to escape this experience. We're wanting to integrate the experience. We're wanting to bring the spiritual into the physical. We're wanting to bring these together and create a brand new experience. And again, this is where we're coming into this point of, there is no to do. There is no manual really, for this. And maybe we are coming into our own tools of how we're working through this, but as far as like, oh, I could just Google it and figure out how we'd be able to do this, or I'd be able to just hit up a doctor and they could cure this or fix this. This isn't something that is like fixed this way. This is something that has to be explored and found. We are the pioneers in whatever way in our experience. So, in allowing ourselves to acknowledge our humanness, we still can accept and know that we are evolved, that we are amazing, that no matter how it looks within this perspective, that we are actually much farther and much more complete than we think that we are. It's just, as I said in my previous video, it's like when you're in the middle of the game, or especially when you're in the middle of playing a game, you can get kind of lost until you're at the end of the battle, and then you realize all of what's been taking place. So, stand in your own beauty, stand in your own power. Know that it invites others to do the same, but also know that it's not about doing it for other people. It's about doing what's right for you. Because as I said, I feel, again, most of these messages are just kind of expounding on what I said in my prior video, but really recognizing that who you are and what you are here and meant to do is innate within you. It's not about you having to like speak to somebody else to be like, so they can tell you what's best about you. Especially if you feel like you already know what you love about yourself, or even the things that you don't like about yourself. Again, question why you don't like those things. You can still ultimately come back to recognizing that those are things that you genuinely would like to change and work with. But a lot of times, or not even just a lot of times, sometimes you can just recognize, or at the end of investigating our fears and our insecurities, they start to crumble. You can start to see the glitches and start to see the holes starting that you poked through, your own illusions. So yeah, it's not about, at the end of this all, someone coming through and rescuing us. We'll definitely have people to assist us and support us and be there with us, while we're going through things, or, people connecting with us in all sorts of ways, or us connecting with other people in ways, different kinds of ways. But at the end of it, it's us being the hero to our own story. We are the protagonist. So, celebrate that and own it. Own that you are here. And, yeah, just really, I guess, if as we're coming into this, just step into this knowing that, you are part of this story, or this is, your story. And so just owning it and knowing that, and it's not even about knowing. I don't want to say, oh yeah, it's going to kick your butt. We don't know. But it's just about knowing that it's not about it being a perfect, even linear picture. And oftentimes it's the fact that we don't have the full picture. We just have like a few of the pieces. Or even not necessarily about a few of the pieces, but maybe we have like the border and we don't have like all the inside pieces filled in. Or, maybe we've just got like a few of the like straggling inside pieces and we just have no idea what's going on. Regardless of where we are on, whatever spectrum of awareness or consciousness of our own stories. Just knowing that the fun is in us recognizing our journey right now. The fun is in us, breaking free of the old idea of thinking, hey, we need to just be working and buying stuff and just kind of just living our lives in just the way that I feel is just very lackadaisical and just routine, just kind of going with the flow of things. And it's just, things are getting shaken up. That's what Sagittarius loves to do, but I also feel just this Uranian energy as well. I just feel like things are definitely just getting, shocked and vibrated and just woken up in ways that many of us just haven't felt. And so it definitely can be uncomfortable, but I think we can find some beauty and begin finding comfort as we start to, again, settle into our, I guess, just our new parts, or even just the new pieces of ourselves that we start to recognize and acknowledge. So yeah, I guess at the end of all of this, if there's anything that I would want to leave you with as far as like an affirmation, the only thing I can really focus on, or not the only thing, but just to try and keep it, short and succinct, is, us manifesting and seeing clearly the gifts that we carry, and, claiming that you're willing to remember and receive, the appropriate tools for, your present now, that you are worthy, that you are ready, that it is not even just time, but that, you are here. So it's time for you to, receive what is yours. So I think actually, because this video is a bit long, I'm at 36 minutes, I'll go ahead and make another video for the collective messages, and I'll upload that hopefully today. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this. I really hope that this, brought some sort of clarity as far as what will be taking place over the next 2 weeks, over, the 21st through to December 3rd. I guess just to close this off, just wanting to look at some of the noted shifts that are coming through. I'm definitely going to want to bring some sort of message or content for this, mini stellium that we've got taking place with Sun, Jupiter, and Mercury in Sagittarius in the next couple of days. So I'm excited to talk about that. We've got quite a few, planetary shifts taking place. Venus will enter Scorpio, as will Mercury. We've got, Mercury direct within the same period, but we also have Chiron moving direct. So, I would love to talk about that because, not just because I have, heavy Chiron aspects in my chart, but I believe just that the wounded healer is just a heavy archetype, or a common archetype that, I'm coming up into, and not just coming into, but that, the people that I speak to, the people that I seem to communicate and that I seem to come in contact with. So this is definitely something that's important to keep note of as well. We also have Mercury entering Sagittarius again. So yeah, there's just a lot taking place within these next 2 weeks. But yeah, just to try and keep this a little bit shorter than longer. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and for being here, for listening to me, allowing me to ramble and to fumble over my words sometimes. And yeah, I'm just really appreciative for the support and the love. So yeah, feel free to follow me on Instagram for more daily content, or if you would like to just communicate with me or just find me on a more personal level. Other than that, you can reach me through my website, gladiatorinsweats.com, where you can purchase personal sessions with me, as well as some new content that I may be coming forward with. And yeah, I think that's really about it. I hope that everyone enjoys the holidays for those that are celebrating. And regardless, I hope that everyone is just enjoying their day and celebrating their life, or at the very least, the very new chapters that I feel many of us are unfolding as we speak. So yeah, much love, many blessings as always. And yeah, until next time, peace.